It's day 89, and the story begins with the sound of rustling leaves echoing through the streets of an abandoned ghost town. A family tiptoes barefoot through an empty grocery store. Evelyn, the mother, carefully searches through a pile of prescription bottles, picking out medicine for her eldest son Marcus, who is sick. She gives him some pills and reassures her daughter Reagan, who is deaf, that her brother will be okay through sign language. Reagan then checks on her younger brother Bo, who is drawing a picture of a rocket on the floor. Bo signs to Reagan, "Rocket, that's how we'll get away." He climbs the nearly empty shelves and reaches for a space shuttle toy. The toy falls, but Reagan catches it before it hits the ground, her eyes wide with fear knowing that even the slightest noise could be fatal. She walks over to her father, Lee, who is scavenging some electronics to boost a radio signal and finds cutting pliers for her. Evelyn signals to the family that it will be dark soon, and they prepare to leave. Suddenly, looks of horror appear on their faces. Bo is holding the electronic space shuttle toy. Lee carefully takes it from him, removing the batteries. He signs to Bo, "It's too loud." Bo looks visibly upset and heartbroken. As they turn to leave, Reagan quietly slips the toy back into his hands. Bo sneaks the batteries into his pocket without anyone noticing. The family silently walks home on a trail of sand they've created. As they approach a walking bridge, they hear the toy's electronic sound. A horrified Lee races back to Bo, but he's too late. The alien creature flashes before them and takes the boy away. Over a year has passed since the harrowing day of Bo's death, each moment steeped in fear and relentless silence. Lee is in the basement of the farmhouse, surrounded by an extensive surveillance system of cameras and monitors. He tirelessly works with his radio and electronics, hoping to contact other survivors. The walls are covered with news clippings about the alien invasion, including notes like blind, attack sound, and armor. Once again, Lee tries to make contact but fails, crossing another day off his list. Evelyn, who is pregnant, prepares for the arrival of their baby in the cellar. She sets up an oxygen tank connected to an infant breathing mask and places it next to a covered, soundproof crib. She also hangs a handmade mobile above the crib. As night falls, Lee lights a small metal drum. In the distance, another flame appears, followed by more scattered across the mountains. Evelyn asks Reagan to tell her father that dinner is ready. Reluctantly, Reagan complies. After a silent prayer, the family quietly eats their meal on pieces of lettuce instead of plates. Later, Reagan and Marcus play Monopoly. Marcus accidentally knocks over a lantern, setting the rug on fire. Lee quickly puts it out, but the family is paralyzed with fear, waiting for the consequences. Suddenly, loud banging is heard from the roof, followed by crunching sounds. Lee looks out the window, startled to see a raccoon fall off the roof. The family is momentarily shocked, but then relieved. However, just as the raccoon starts to run, it is swiftly squashed by a monster. Lee heads back to the basement to work on a hearing implant for Reagan. Evelyn comes down to check on him, and they share a smile. They put on a set of earbuds and slow dance to Neil Young's Harvest Moon. Life on the farm is hard but stable. The next day, Lee continues to pour sand along their walking paths, ensuring their silent movement. Meanwhile, Evelyn is in the cellar, checking her blood pressure as her due date approaches in a couple of weeks. She places a stethoscope on her abdomen, listening to the strong heartbeat of her unborn child. Reagan enters the farmhouse, carefully walking on the marked spots of the floor that don't creak. She wants to go down to the basement, but Lee stops her. He's been working on a new cochlear implant processor for her, adding small amplifiers from a stereo. However, Reagan, frustrated by previous failures, signs that they never work. Disheartened, Lee hands her the device and prepares to leave for an excursion. Meanwhile, Evelyn is teaching Marcus math when Lee tells her that he plans to take Marcus with him today. Turning to his son, Lee invites Marcus to join him, but the boy hesitates. Sensing his fear, Evelyn comforts him, promising that Lee will keep him safe. Reagan, eager to go, volunteers instead. But Lee insists she stays and takes care of her mom until her hearing is fixed. Upset, Reagan runs to her room and tries on the new implant. When it doesn't work, she feels devastated. She packs a bag with her cutting pliers and a wrapped object from her dresser, then sneaks out of the farm. Lee takes Marcus to a river where they set a fish trap. After stepping down to the water, Lee catches a fish from the trap and throws it onto the ground. The sudden slapping noise startles Marcus, and he tries to run away in fear. Lee quickly stops him and teaches him that making small sounds is safe, as long as louder sounds are nearby. They freely talk next to a waterfall without fear of being overheard. During this moment, Marcus asks why Lee didn't bring Reagan and whether he blames her for what happened to Bo. Lee reassures him that it was no one's fault. Marcus advises his father to tell Reagan that he loves her. Reagan arrives at the walking bridge where a makeshift memorial for Bo stands. She unwraps the object from her dresser, revealing the space shuttle toy. She uses the pliers to cut a wire, allowing the toy to light up silently. Back at home, Evelyn is carrying a laundry bag up from the basement. As she pulls it up the stairs, the bag gets caught on the stairs, causing her to stumble and reveal a nail sticking out from the wood. As Lee and Marcus make their way home, they encounter an old man emerging from the woods, with his wife's lifeless body lying nearby. Lee urgently signals for the man to stay silent, but the old man suddenly lets out a loud, primal scream. In an instant, Lee grabs Marcus and runs as a monster quickly appears and snatches the man away. Back at the farmhouse, Evelyn's water breaks, signaling the start of her labor. She heads to the basement but accidentally steps on the exposed nail on the stairs. Struggling not to scream, she drops the picture frame she was holding, which shatters loudly, attracting monsters to the house. She pulls her foot off the nail and switches on the red warning lights across the property. She then sets a mechanical kitchen timer and hides as the monster descends into the basement, listening for any sound. As the beast descends the stairs, it searches for signs of life. When the timer goes off, the beast attacks it, allowing Evelyn to run upstairs. She heads to the bathroom and gets into the tub, where she begins giving birth. Meanwhile, Lee returns home and notices the red lights, signaling danger. He signs fireworks to Marcus, telling him to create a distraction. Marcus sets off a series of fireworks, making a loud distraction that also wakes up Regan, who is lying on the bridge. Lee grabs his shotgun and rushes into the house, searches the house, and finds the bathroom, where he discovers an empty, bloodied bathtub. He starts to weep, fearing the worst, but is overjoyed to discover that she's safe and hiding in the shower with their newborn baby. Relieved, he quickly moves them to the soundproof bunker they've been preparing and hides the baby inside the crib. Meanwhile, Marcus, returning from setting off the fireworks, hears a monster nearby. He runs into the cornfield but accidentally hits a tractor wheel, knocking himself unconscious. Reagan arrives home and spots the light from Marcus's flashlight in the cornfield. Distracted, she doesn't hear the monster behind her. As she approaches, her cochlear implant starts making a high-pitched feedback loop, causing the monster to distress and forcing it to retreat. Unaware of what just happened, Reagan finds Marcus, and they climb to the top of the grain silo to wait for their father. Evelyn, still weak from childbirth, reflects on the loss of Bo and feels a deep pang of regret for not carrying him that fateful day. She asks Lee to promise that he will protect their remaining children, then tries to get some rest. As Lee heads out to find Reagan and Marcus, water starts leaking into the cellar from a broken pipe. Later, Evelyn wakes up to find the cellar partially flooded. To make matters worse, a monster has entered the room. She sees her baby, still safe in the soundproof crib but with the top open. Carefully, she picks up the baby and moves to the back of the cellar, hiding behind the waterfall created by the flooding. As Reagan and Marcus sit atop the silo, Marcus signs, "Don't worry, he'll come for us." Reagan, however, shakes her head and replies, "He'll come for you." Suddenly, the hatch at the top of the silo gives way, and Marcus falls inside. He struggles as the grain starts to swallow him, pulling him under. The noise attracts the monster from the cellar, which leaps into the silo. The hatch lid falls, narrowly missing Marcus, who tries to grab onto it but can't manage. In a moment of bravery, Reagan jumps into the silo to save him. She pushes the hatch towards Marcus, giving him something to hold on to, but soon finds herself sinking into the grain. Marcus pulls her onto the hatch, and they both climb onto it for safety. Just then, they hear a crash above. The creature from the cellar has followed them and is now inside the silo. As the siblings cover themselves with the hatch door, the situation seems hopeless. However, Reagan's cochlear implant starts emitting a high-pitched feedback noise, causing the monster to thrash and then crash through the silo wall, escaping the unbearable sound. Reagan and Marcus climb out of the silo and rush into a nearby pickup truck. Lee arrives, grabs an axe, and heads towards them. Before he can act, the creature attacks him, throwing him aside and causing Marcus to scream. The noise draws the monster towards the truck, where it begins tearing it open. Reagan's implant emits another piercing sound, but this time she turns it off, inadvertently allowing the creature to continue its attack. In a desperate act of love and sacrifice, Lee makes eye contact with Reagan and signs, "I love you. I've always loved you." He then screams, drawing the monster's attention and allowing the children to escape. The creature lunges at Lee. Marcus quickly understands the situation and releases the truck's handbrake. The truck comes to a halt near the house, where they finally reunite with their mother, their breaths heavy with relief and sorrow. No time to waste. Hearing the alien approaching, the family retreats into the house and quickly heads down to the basement. For the first time, Reagan sees the extensive work her father had done to repair and improve her cochlear implant. Overwhelmed with emotion, she takes in the sight of his dedication just as the lights begin flickering, a clear sign of the monster's arrival. As the creature descends into the basement, the family finds themselves cornered. Reagan, recalling her father's notes, particularly the question, "What is their weakness?" suddenly realizes the answer lies within her cochlear implant. With a burst of insight, she switches on the device, generating a powerful feedback loop that causes the monster to convulse violently. Thinking quickly, she amplifies the sound by pressing the implant against a nearby microphone, sending the creature into a state of distress. It collapses, struggling to rise again. Seizing the moment, Evelyn grabs Lee's shotgun and fires, blowing the creature's head apart. As the family regroups, they see on the surveillance monitors that the noise has drawn more monsters toward them. Acting quickly, Reagan cranks up the speakers, ready to use her new weapon. With a determined look and a slight grin, Evelyn pumps the shotgun, ready to protect her family no matter what. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. We've got a lot of great content coming your way. Take care and see you again.